I'm Chloe Howell. I'm here to talk to you today about a bit of my work and a bit of an artist's work as well. So here goes. I started at uni in 2009. I started a fine art degree first. I naively chose that degree because I enjoyed drawing at school. I was told I was good at drawing at school, whatever that encapsulated. And yeah, painting was what I enjoyed to do and what I wanted to keep doing, so I joined a fine art course. The problem I found when I got there was that the work that I was doing wasn't really interesting. It was more observational, so I started by trying to make problems for myself and paint around said problems. So the images on the screen at the moment are where I've sort of dripped ink down a board just to create like sort of a grid for myself and then paint around the grid. Which made some sort of interesting images there. This is an image of the wall in my studio. It's a collection of work that I'd done at school and a little bit that I'd started to do at university. But I wasn't quite settled into a rhythm. My tutors were a bit umming and ahhing about what I was doing and didn't feel confident with what I was producing. So I left university, unfortunately, had a bit of a gap and went back to an illustration degree a couple of years later. I found my love for screen printing. I absolutely loved the process. There was a gentleman who worked in the print department who was a working, practicing printmaker, knew a lot about a lot of different techniques, and I loved going and picking his mind and picking his brain and seeing what he could teach me. And screen printing was one of the processes that he taught me, and I actually became a bit of a guru for it within my group, which helped me more because I was helping other people to do work. So the work on the far side there was actually a zine that I did with the others in my illustration group to raise funds to put on a show. And here's some of my starting work for what would eventually become my final major project. So I started screen printing pictures of my face. I thought I'd start with what I knew, and what I knew at the time was makeup. I really enjoyed makeup, and as a young woman in the age of the digital social media, I wasn't shy of a selfie, so that's where I started, and I wanted to see where I could go from there. So I'd looked at an artist called Graham Rawle, who creates worlds out of things, and what I looked to do was create a world for me and my makeup and my passion. It didn't go how I planned. I made a few different bits of sort of drawing, collage and printmaking. I just had a bit of experiment, and I found that wasn't the route that I wanted to go down, but I've spent quite a lot of time on that, just trying different media altogether. And then came my final major project. So I started setting myself little tasks. So I would set myself, take a selfie every 5 minutes, just to see how that made me feel and see how people reacted to me, try and make something normal to see in a club maybe, but not so normal to see in the middle of Tesco for no reason. So I set myself maybe taking a selfie every 5 minutes. I also did a shift on my bar, the bar that I worked in when I was at university, in deer makeup, just to see what people's reaction was. That was me sort of exploring the idea of makeup as a mask, and as not myself, but I was myself, which was a lot of what I was playing with. Who are you? What are you? Sort of element. That was really interesting. I got a lot of sort of funny reactions and a few funny looks. You had to have a tough skin, but I found that because I was covered up, with a bit of a mask on, that was fine. And then I did a day of no makeup at all whatsoever, which for me was a massive deal at the time. And I stopped and I took selfies every 5 minutes the same day. I had an alarm going off all day every 5 minutes. And I put this one out to social media because that is not where I would put it. I would call social media my highlights reel, and I would never put a picture of myself with no makeup on social media, but I did, and I explained what I was doing, and I asked for people's opinions on makeup, no makeup, how they felt if they were wearing it, what people who don't wear it felt, just to sort of get a feel for where I wanted to go with my project. And then I ended up here, which was effectively where my main project finished, what I wanted to show was that the pictures I was taking of myself weren't true, they weren't real life. I took a series of images where this was the close-up, this is what I would post on social media, and this, for illustrative purposes, is what really was surrounding me, was the chaos that was surrounding me, was sort of the depression that I was in at the time. So I'm portraying this side of myself, but this side of myself was a side that was totally hidden, and what I did was created a series of GIFs which showed just a glimpse every now and then of the real in the fake I'd created, I suppose. Yeah, it was put in a booth, so it was quite dark, quite intense. I really enjoyed that work. It's only now, a few years later, I know where I would now go with that work, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So moving on, I mentioned Graham Rawle earlier. Graham Rawle was an artist who was introduced to me on my illustration course. The first book that was introduced to me was The Wizard of Oz. It's illustrated by him using found objects put into a landscape or a scene, and then digitally manipulated to give perspective. Collage was used, very multimedia, and I was really drawn in by them. I think the object back here is based on a salt pepper mill. This is another one of his landscapes, so all found objects, all collage. I really liked the colour, the vibrancy, and the fun of his work. And here's some more, here's Oz. A lot of this is sort of bottles, gloves. I don't think you'd really know unless you really stopped and looked. It does look like some fantastical world that he's created, which is brilliant. It's exactly what he was going for. I also really like the still that they've used here to overlay. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Moving on to his most recent book, which is Overland. The US Army actually commissioned Hollywood set designers and builders in 1942 to cover an air base. So they didn't want the Japanese pilots flying over to see where they were building aircraft. So they fully staged a town with buildings and let people kind of have a wander through. And Graham Rawle explored that idea. So there's overarching themes of sort of heaven and hell, as you can show over and under. So sort of the fakeness and the reality, which I found mirrored a lot in my own work. Yeah. And then here's a selection of more of Graham's work. So we've got here, this is the High Life Expo, which is an installation that was put together to try and show basically the danger of over-consumerism and where we're ending up. It's a post-apocalyptic sort of scenario that he set up, and it was actually a massive installation that a lot of people visited. I think it was 30,000 over the 5 months that it was there. It was very, very popular. The Wonder Book of Fun is just that. Some of the pieces in there calculate the velocity of nose debris in a sneezing powder, match 9 dog owners to their dentures. So it's about the exploration and the loss of fun in puzzle books, which you don't often sort of get anymore. And the card was an interesting one in that a lot of the works in there are actually just photographs. And this card moving around, the card's dropped by a grey-haired stranger, and the writer of the book, Graham, he sees it and it's a Queen of Hearts, and that obviously is to do with Princess Diana, because she was the Queen of people's hearts. And he goes off on a quest to try and save Princess Diana, for all little clues that he comes across that he's pieced together to make his own adventure and put that into this book. That's all I've got to share with you, so thank you very much for watching.